Okay, Rosemary, we have attendees coming in now. You're all set.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Good morning and welcome to the 2020 annual meeting of the Hanover Consumer Cooperative Society. I'm Rosemary Fifield. I'm president of the Co-op's Board of Directors. And thank you all for joining us today. Before we begin the business meeting, I would like to make sure that everyone in attendance knows how to submit a question or a comment during the meeting and knows how to vote. To participate in the vote, which will be to approve the minutes of last year's annual meeting, you will need to have video access to the poll, which will show on your screen. During the member comment portion of the meeting, we will respond to questions and comments. If you are attending with video access, find the Q&A button on your screen and type in your question. If you're participating by audio only, you will need to submit your questions and comments by email, and we will respond after the meeting. The address can be found on our website and also on the agenda, which you can't see because you're on audio only. All right, I will now officially open the business portion of this annual meeting. Present with us today are the following board officers: Liz Blum, Vice President, Emmanuel Adjavon, Board Secretary, and Benoit Rozon, Treasurer. I will now ask April Harkness, our Board Administrator, to name the board members who are also present.
Sorry, we've got Aline Swankowski, Ed Howes, Jessica Giordani, Jessica Satterley Hall, Kevin Birdsey, and Tom Battles.
All right, thank you. Also present as speakers at today's meeting are the following members of the Co-op's leadership team: Ed Fox, General Manager; Paul Guidone, Interim General Manager; Mark Langlois, Director of Finance; and Amanda Charlin, Director of Cooperative Engagement. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Board Secretary Emmanuel Adjavon.
Thank you, Rosemary. I now move to approve the April 6, 2019 minutes as presented. I would now like to call for a vote.
And this is Benoit Rozon, Treasurer. I second Emmanuel's motion.
So shortly, you should see the voting screen appear on the screen. You will then have 60 seconds from that point to cast your vote. The screen has not appeared just yet.
I have received some votes.
Okay.
Yep.
You have received votes.
I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. They are So April, just to clarify, I'm not sure if the panelists can see.
You're right. The
screen?
panelists are not seeing the voting screen.
Okay,
But the other thing I can do is send the vote to the participating members immediately at the end of this meeting.
got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's give it another 10 more seconds. Okay, thank you everyone for voting. I would now like to introduce our treasurer, Benoit.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Can everybody hear me? Yes, I assume so. This is the official treasurer's report for the year ended 2019. Our books were audited as last year by the accounting firm Baker Newman Noyes, which gave us an unqualified audit report, meaning that the auditors found no issues whatsoever. For 2019, the general manager and his senior management team had established a very solid business plan, and they adhered to it through the year. Now, looking back on 2019, we note that this plan conformed very closely to reality. Our sales increased to just about $77 million, with an increase of $2 million or 3% over the previous year, which is very healthy. Our gross profit margin also grew from 32% to 33%, which is in the right direction. With an increase in wages and benefits up by 7.6%, however, our income from operations decreased to just below $200,000, about half of what it was last year, the previous year in 2018. This led to a tiny loss of $37,000, or 0.05% of sales before savings and taxes. After taxes, that loss amounted to $73,622, or 0.1% of sales. That is 1/10 of a penny on the dollar. It's tiny. We do not need to worry about this very tiny negative balance, as we had a healthy cash balance of over $1.3 million at the close of 2019. But it means that we will not have a patronage refund this year. The way to understand this is that we did not generate an unnecessary surplus. Instead, members were rewarded along the year on discount days, which is the way we have been rewarding our faithful members for a number of years. Our long-term debt decreased in 2019 by almost $500,000, from $2.7 million to $2.3 million. Member equity in the organization remains mostly unchanged at around $7 million. Another source of good news is that the basket size, which is the average amount of transactions at the registers, increased by a little over 3% in all our 4 stores. This is higher than food inflation, pegged currently at 1.6%, meaning that our shoppers are buying more. Our number of shoppers has remained pretty steady in 2019, except for the White River Junction store, where it keeps on rising, now exceeding 400,000 visits in the year. It has become customary at this occasion for the treasurer to report on the progress of the Pennies for Change program, although this is not strictly part of the finances of the co-op. I'm pleased to report that this fundraising initiative remains strong. In 2019, we raised just about $193,000, and this has helped us continue providing substantial donations to a variety of worthy organizations throughout the Upper Valley. Since its inception, this program has raised over $800,000, all in pennies. Before concluding, I want to mention that members are being asked this year to vote to secure a loan not to exceed $3.6 million and an additional line of credit of $1 million for unforeseen fixed asset expenditures, to be used only if necessary. Members may ask why. The answer is that, like all businesses, we need to spend money to make money. It is time for us to invest in capital expenditures, things like refrigerated cases. Our organization is in the fortunate position to have sizable equity in its Hanover store. In contrast to typical co-ops that do not have equity to enable them to access capital. So we have the best of both worlds. We are co-op, thus working directly for the community rather than shareholders, and we also have equity to access capital. This is a fortunate position, and we're taking advantage of it. Our business is strong. We can afford the loan, and it is a very wise business decision. I ask all members present to vote in support of this article, which I think is a vote that we will do online together with the elections, not at this moment. If anyone has questions about this report, please address them through the Q&A dialog box of your screen or by email at the address that was provided to you at the time of registration. I think it is common@coopfoodstore.com. I will now turn it over to Amanda Charland, our Director of Cooperative Engagement.
Thank you, Benoit. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to answer any questions you may have about anything that has come up in our annual meeting so far. To keep the meeting brief, I'd like to ask that the questions are relevant to information that has come up. If you have other questions, we're very happy to answer those, but we'll contact you with that information after the meeting. And we will post all of those on our annual meeting website so that everybody in attendance can see the questions and answers that did come up. A reminder to ask a question, please use the Q&A box. It is probably at the top or bottom of your screen. You can ask any questions in there. We have one question that has come up about voting. So if you didn't get a chance to vote in this meeting for the minutes from last year, we will be sending out information after. Just a reminder of that. So you can have a chance to vote. If there are any other questions, we'll give folks a few minutes. One other reminder, Benoit just mentioned this, but if you have questions, you can always send them to comment@Co-op Food Store. I do have a question about Lebanon customer count, but we will contact you, Andrew, with that information after this meeting. Make sure to get that to the right people. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank you all, and I remind you, please send any other questions you might have to comment@Co-op Food Store. We'll get in touch with people with answers to this, and I'd like to turn the meeting back over to our board president, Rosemary Fifield.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, so at this time, I would like to take a moment to recognize 4 board members who will be leaving the board in May, and to thank them for their service to the co-op and its members. Those 4 board members are Tom Battles, Liz Blum, Benoit Rozon, and Anne Shriver-Sargent. We will miss their insights and their contributions to the board's discussions and decisions. And on behalf of all co-op members, we wish them well. I would also like to recognize, thank, and say goodbye to our general manager, Ed Fox, who will be leaving the co-op on April 10th. Ed's thoughtful and careful stewardship over the past 3 years has brought us the success and the financial stability that we enjoy today, and that will allow our cooperative to continue to serve its members and the community in the future. So thank you, Ed. I want to also recognize our interim general manager, Paul Godon, who has taken over the reins at this difficult time and is doing an incredible job of guiding us into the future. We cannot thank you and your leadership team enough for all of your innovation and hard work. And finally, we need to recognize and thank all of the co-op's very dedicated employees who are the true heroes of this most difficult time. They are taking care of all of us and our community. And again, we cannot thank them enough for staying the course. I am now closing the business portion of the annual meeting, please remember to vote for the loan and for the board of directors. And now I am very pleased to turn the meeting over to Aline Swinkowski, Chair of our Election Committee, who will conduct our candidate forum. Aline?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And thank you very much for taking the time to support us. And I would like to introduce our candidates. This is a new forum for all of us. And so if I can introduce the young people that want to join our board, and I can tell you from having met them and spent a little time with them, they are all outstanding. A half a second, please. So we have Peggy O'Neill. We have, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm used to looking at their faces. But we have Peggy O'Neill, we have Shelby, we have Yolanda, we have Marta, we have Mosh, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. And each one of them will take a minute to introduce themselves to you. And after they introduce themselves to you, there will be questions that we will pose to them. And obviously you will have the opportunity to write them questions as well. Can we start with Peggy?
Can you all? Oops. Sorry about that. Good morning. Sorry about that. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. I hope everyone else can.
I
Wonderful.
can hear you too.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to connect with you all virtually, which is what we've been doing for a few weeks now. I wish I could see everyone's faces and be in community with folks, but we can't. I am a candidate for the board of directors, and I think the world of the co-op, and I have been a patron of the co-op for almost 20 years now. I moved here about 19 years ago. I'm an avid home cook. And so the co-op's been my go-to place, obviously, for groceries. But more importantly than that, as the executive director of WISE and as an interested community member, I also see the incredible role the co-op plays in our community. It is a place for people to connect. It is a source of leadership on sustainable issues, on how to stay connected to community farmers and community purveyors. It's a way for us to learn about healthy eating, about how to be in community with each other. So I'm looking forward to hopefully joining the co-op board of directors if I receive your support. And I look forward to the questions that you have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Manish?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my name is Manish Kumar, and I am running for the co-op board of directors as well. And I am from India. I came to United States in 2001 to get my PhD in aerospace engineering. So I'm an engineer by trade. And I currently work at ANSYS. I don't know, most people probably here have heard of ANSYS. It's very close to the Lebanon Co-op. And I have been in the Upper Valley for about 12 years now. And I have been a member at Co-op for about the same time. And I'm really looking forward for this opportunity because I feel like, just like Peggy said, Co-op is an integral part of our society, and especially during these times when things are so tough for so many people, we can really see the value in an organization like Co-op, in having a place not just for shopping, but also a meeting place for many people, a place of refuge for many people, a place that supports local organizations and charities. So we should do anything we can to make sure that the Co-op is strong for years to come. So looking forward to your questions and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj. Yolanda?
Hello, good morning.
Good
Can you hear
morning.
me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, thank you. My name's Yolanda. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but I moved here for Dartmouth about 4 years ago. I'm staying here specifically working at Dartmouth College in the sustainability office, managing interns, making sure our finances are fine, and general student programming. And I'm also a local organizer with Rise Upper Valley, the United Valley Interfaith Project, and now currently on the Upper Valley response team, doing mutual aid for COVID response. And I've always been interested in trying to connect students and push more students into the co-op, because the co-op has been kind of integral to my Dartmouth experience, going to trips and getting snacks from there, getting stuff from the deli, just like all sorts of things, having experience through the co-op. And I think expanding on the co-op as a community connector within the Upper Valley, I think that's one of my goals for being on this co-op board.
Thank you, Yolanda. Shelby?
Hi, everybody. My name is Shelby Fitzpatrick. I'm running for the board of director. I'm from Montana. I work at Dartmouth College, and I was previously a student there, and I've been in this area for about 6 years now. At Dartmouth, I work in the Native American program as the assistant director, working really closely with students and in combining academic wellness programs for them. I was really interested in applying for the board of directors, I think because of my roots back to home. My family owns a ranching operation, and so I've grown up with a really close relationship, knowing where my food comes from and knowing the quality of my food because we helped raise it. And I think that's something that I really find appealing in the co-op is that it's member owned, and therefore members make decisions on how they'd like their food systems to run and operate. And that kind of community collective work really excites me and reminds me about kind of my upbringing and how I was able with my family to also have that community collective of our food. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your questions. I'm looking forward to your support. I hope you're all well, safe and nested.
Thank you, Shelby. Nick?
Hi, I am Nick Clark. I am also running for the board of directors. My family first became members of the co-op in 1989 when we moved here. I was about 1 year old, so the co-op has been a part of my earliest memories. I remember going across the street every day in high school to the Hanover Co-op and getting everything I needed there. I'm currently on the Thetford Select Board, and I'm the chair of this select board. I am drawn to public service, and I think the co-op models that in everything it does, so I would love to contribute to what it is doing on that level. I really see it as a center point of community. At least it's been a center point of my community growing up. And I just look forward to the opportunity to be more involved in that and to give back.
Thank you so much, Nick. Ms. Marta, please.
Hi all, this is Marta Ceroni. I am originally from Italy, and I grew up in the Emilia-Romagna region where at least 30% of the economy is based on cooperatives of all kinds, including food co-ops. And so for me, it was kind of a natural way of doing business as I grew up. And I followed that passion for alternative models of ownership and governance. Also, as part of my professional trajectory, I worked for 10 years for the Gandhi Institute for Ecological Economics at the University of Vermont, and before that at the University of Maryland. And that was is a group that was really focused on how can you run the economy with respect for people and for the planet. And so that's why I really care about the co-op as a way to create resilient relationships and support one another. And so I look forward to your questions. I'm not going to say anything more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now I'm actually going to pose 2 questions, actually 3, because we had a member send an email in with a question. And I would ask, because we'd like to respect everyone's time, that you limit your response to 1 minute. And I do have a timer. I know you just heard it go off in the background, but I do want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to answer and to do it relatively quickly. If you don't mind, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to start the question with Manish first. I hope you don't mind, Manish.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Okay, the first question is, what would you do to make member shoppers more cognizant of our new personal space requirement and its importance to all?
Yes, great question. Thank you. So I think the first thing that we can do is sending out those informational emails that go out to members. And by doing that, we can at least have the members informed. And I'm going to go through some of these ideas that I am having right now very quickly. The next thing we can do is having notices at the door to act as a reminder for people as they enter the co-op. We can also think about having greeters at the door that also act as verbal reminders for people as they enter to keep safe distance with their fellow other customers. We can also think about having video screens playing some of these guidelines for people. So we have 15-second loops of videos saying, why do we need to have this distancing? And when you touch something, make sure that you put them in your basket. And also when you go home, make sure that you wash your hands and your face and things like that. So just reminders for people to be careful. I know that we have talked about having markers on the floor, which is also a great idea to act as a visual reminder of how much distance to keep between other fellow customers. Now, there are other ideas that we can think about. For example, self-checkout for some people, if they prefer that. Also, we can think about limiting the number of people that shop in the store at the same time. These are ideas that we don't have to explore right now. But
I hate to say it, Manish, time. Yes. I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
Sorry. The next person, please, Shelby, would you give us your input? And again, you are being timed. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize.
Aline, would you mind repeating the question, please?
Not a problem. What would you do to make member shoppers more cognizant of our new personal space requirement and its importance to all?
Yeah, I think Manish had a lot of really, really great ideas that you're probably going to hear come up time and time again. I think the most important thing is making sure that people are seeing visual signage of what expectations are being set by the cooperative so that they can visually follow what is important to make sure that their safety is being held as priority. Secondly, I think going off of the signage, there's multiple screens in the cooperative and the co-op, and being able to post information on those on different ways that they can monitor different kinds of safety advice and keep up in the know about that is going to be really important as well. I think having greeters at the door is a really great idea because I think it increases the human connection that a lot of people I think are feeling a disconnect right now. But being able to have somebody greet at the door in a safe distance, but just having that reassurance that this is a new protocol and watch out for the signage.
Thank you, Shelby. Can we go to Peggy, please?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And both Manish and Shelby offered some great ideas. I think what I think about is, of course, signage is very, very important. I'm also thinking about those of us who are in the stores and maybe we're uncomfortable being in that environment. Perhaps we're not as adept at reading all of the emails that may be coming in. And so how can we, when we're in the co-op store, how can we support each other to maintain social distancing? And I think we can model it. I think we can gently help people who might not be understanding what social distancing is, who may feel uncomfortable or awkward in the store, and just gently remind people and show people how social distancing is needed right now, while also being friendly and open and receptive to each other. So obviously signage, and we, when we're in there, can all do our part to enforce and model social distancing. Thank you.
Thank you. Marta, please.
Yes, all of the above are great ideas. I've been thinking a lot about actually also the safety of the employees, and I personally would like to recommend that cashiers actually wear masks and gloves. And that could also send a psychological message to shoppers that the co-op is taking this very seriously, and they are role modeling some of the best practices that are emerging. I'm not talking about surgical level masks, but I think it would help to create that message. And I really like all of the ideas that I've mentioned before. And one great tool is to limit the number of shoppers in a store. I know it's a little drastic and extreme, but that's what's happening also in Italy and all over other parts of the world. And you can have safe ways to wait outside for your turn to go in. And of course, the co-op is talking about curbside pickup, and that might take a little time because people might get very passionate about this way of shopping. And so it's important that it gets implemented in a way that it can serve the needs over the long term, and not just kind of a batch solutions for the time being.
Thank you, Marta. Time's up, sorry. Yolanda?
Thank you. Likewise, I think a lot of the ideas I was going to mention have been mentioned, but to get a little kookier, I guess, with the suggestions. I know some restaurants do like check-ins with like reservation check-ins. So maybe we can establish a system where we're only allowing a certain amount of people inside the co-op, and maybe we can facilitate that through like Yelp or something like that. And maybe because the co-op does have a little bit more personalized shopping experience than say like a Price Shopper, have someone at the door explaining kind of protocols of like social distancing, and like you'll see some of the cashiers wearing masks and gloves. As Marta mentioned, I think that's a really good point that she brought up. And curbside, again, I think having maybe the people most at risk stay in their cars and we go shopping inside for them, taking down like what essentials they need and then bringing them over to them. I know others have been doing hours for the elderly. Maybe that's something that we'd like to implement if it's not already implemented. But yeah, things that are kind of like seeing what others are doing currently and try to establish it for the co-op in a way that's like more personalized to the co-op.
Thank you, Yolanda. Sorry, time's up. And Nick, please.
Hi, thank you. Very important question. I think as directors or potential directors, the best thing we can do is model best practices ourselves, and then make sure that members and the community have the best information coming from a consistent source, so it's not an overwhelming amount of information that is hard to digest. I agree with a lot of the practical ideas that have been mentioned, but I just want to speak briefly to the structure of the organization. as directors, what we should be doing is sharing these ideas with management and letting them handle the day-to-day operations. So a lot of good ideas, but I think having faith in the general manager and the interim general manager to care for the stores and the operation of the stores and the customers is really what we need to do. Instead of having more voices, we need to have consistent, reliable information coming from the same place every time. So just mitigate the chaos and put faith into our management and our employees.
Thank you, Nick. We've had two questions come in, one of which I think we should answer later. The first question is, and this is not for you as the panel right now, do you have any new ideas about engaging those in the community who are at economic risk? And the second one is a reflection rather than a question. I get a rash when I use hand sanitizer. Unfortunate for a healthcare worker. So having a portable sink for hand washing at the entrance could be nice. I haven't been in a couple weeks, so sorry if this has already been implemented. So those are two questions that we got typed in. And then I'm going to go on with our questions that we were prepared for. The second question is, how would you propose that we attract young families and singles to join our co-op? And I'm going to start and go backwards. I'm going to start with Marta first.
Yes, so when I think of young families and singles, and I think also single parents, I inevitably think about the fact that these people might have little time and they might have less money than when they were not in a family, and they really might care about the quality and the health of their food. And so sometimes there's a trade-off between, you know, eating healthy and having not much money at hand. And so the co-op can actually really help these families with promoting information, for example, about what are the conventional fruits and vegetables that actually are safe to eat, and they are a little bit more affordable than the usual organics. And I think it has a lot to do with really the communications and and also lowering the barrier for entrance in becoming members of the co-op. I think there might be some opportunities in the future, if not right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Peggy, please.
Sure, that's a great question. And when I think about families, young families and singles and a younger customer base, there'll be some wonderful ideas that others will share. I also think about how we can, as a co-op, reach out more into the community to let families, young families and single parent families know about the co-op. And I'm just thinking, you know, are there opportunities to reach out to the schools, to PTOs, to places where single parent families and young families are already connecting, to explain how the resources the co-op has, that we welcome you to shop in the co-op, to understand what might be some barriers to shopping in the co-op. I think, you know, in working at WISE and speaking with some of the folks that we're with, I think the co-op sometimes has a reputation of being expensive. So maybe just dispelling some of the myths about the co-op so that we can invite more people in to shop there and to learn from all of the resources the co-op offers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Manish?
Yes, that's a great question. And I appreciate all the answers that came before from Marta and Peggy. So time, money, quality, communication with them, reaching out to them where they are, membership benefits, making available to more people. But I think if I had to categorize the primary issues that I see, because many singles and young people, they come from various socioeconomic backgrounds. So we need to get some information on what their priorities are, what are they looking for, what will make them join a organization like Co-op. So I can categorize them in 3 different buckets. You could think of product availability, you could think of pricing, and you could think of their preferences. And the preferences could be dietary, or it could be their value-based, like do they support environment values? Do they support animal rights, zero waste? All of those things are becoming more and more important. At the same time, they care where their food is coming from. They don't want food coming from faraway places. Maybe they prefer food from our local farmers, which Co-op is already very good at doing. So we should look at all of these 3 different factors, and then based on data, we can decide what are the best actions to take.
Thank you, Manish. Shelby?
Thank you, Elaine. Yeah, I think all of those are really, really great points to make. And I think additionally something, and kind of building off of Peggy's point, when I was a student, I think there is a reputation of the co-op being somewhat an unaffordable place to be able to shop. And it wasn't until I actually kind of took the leap and went into the co-op and saw the different products, saw the bulk section, and saw that I could buy things in a smaller amount for a lot cheaper, did I realize that it was actually a really affordable place for me as a student to shop. And so I think it is kind of mixing a lot of what the candidates have already said, is getting information out to where young individuals currently are. So sending out surveys and saying, you know, this is what the cooperative has to offer. What are your interests? And so that's kind of what I think about affordability. And then secondly, as a student and coming from a place that is not the East Coast, and listening to individuals who, you know, have really deep and intense stories about what food means to them and how that relates them back to place and identity, I think is also taking a really close look at what culturally relevant and appropriate foods are available at the cooperative, so that individuals who are coming into the store, young individuals coming from all over the place with many different backgrounds, are coming and they don't feel like that they have to leave their identities and their backgrounds at the door when they come into shop. And instead they come in knowing that the products that they eat, they've eaten from home, from places that they've come from, are going to be stocked in the shelves, and that they feel that they can connect to the cooperative on an identity level.
Thank you, Shelby. Nick?
Yeah, I think the co-op already checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people. It's community oriented, it's a good company. I think no young family or single person is the same, and it's really a socioeconomic question of what demographic are we trying to reach, and what have we tried, and what is or isn't working. Millennials are the first generation that are projected to be less well off economically than their parents' generation. And so while the co-op checks a lot of those boxes, I think the big question is affordability. And it's not that the co-op isn't affordable, but it does have that image of it's healthier, so it must cost more, right? So we have work to do on the brand that being healthy is also affordable, or can be affordable, or being community minded can also be affordable. So it's reaching people where they are, and really helping people see that you can be part of the community and healthy at a place like the co-op without necessarily spending more, and maybe spending less, and really just getting that point across that it is affordable, or it can be affordable. I think that's the big missing piece.
Thank you, Nick. And Miss Yolanda?
Hi, I think I can agree with a lot of what has been said, but thinking a little bit about like a hidden gem in the co-op, and I think the deli, and talking about expanding the offerings or highlighting the offerings of the deli, like daily specials and things like that. I think that is something that like speaks to a lot of single family or singles and young families about convenience. It's super easy to go in and get lunch for people, and also thinking about kind of the arrangement of the co-op itself. I see a lot of young families, like one parent is outside with the kids, like entertaining them, while another parent runs in and like grabs what they need, and then they go back home carrying stuff in their stroller, whatever that is that they're doing, like getting back home. But yeah, thinking about the arrangement of how to make that a comfortable experience for people who are picking up their kids from school and then going and getting lunch for them, or getting stuff to make lunch for them, and like how to arrange the seating arrangement outside of the co-op, and yeah, trying to figure out some of those like small details. But again, I can agree with a lot of what's been said already.
Thank you, Yolanda. We did have another question come in, I think because we are going to have 4 forums before the end of the month where our candidates will have the opportunity to answer more questions. And I believe at the top of one of the questions that we received last night in an email, it was, how would you use policy governance in relation to the GM's responsibility to run the business as an example, and give an example? And I think this is something that, one, if you're not familiar with policy governance, it could be a very difficult question for a candidate to answer. And so it's something that I'd like all of you to think about. You can obviously ask me questions about it, any of the other board members about it. Kevin Birdsey is very, very excellent in terms of policy governance. Obviously, our president, Rosemary, is also good, but you can approach our current members about how policy governance relates to the general manager. And when we have our first forum again on April the 9th at 4 p.m., I invite everybody who is here now to get more familiar with our candidates. And at this time, I would like to turn the meeting back over to April, our board secretary. And thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, thank you everybody who is still listening in. I'm sorry about the glitch with voting on the minutes. I will send everyone who participates a follow-up email and ask you to vote on the minutes in that fashion. I did receive some votes, but it appears that not everybody saw the poll. So we are going to close the candidate forum, and you'll find lots of information on our website. We're updating that daily. So do check back if you have any questions at all about the loan, about this meeting, or about the candidates. And again, thank you for participating, and apologize for any glitches. Marta asked a question about how many participants. We have 41 attendees today and 12 panelists, so it was a good turnout. And again, apologize if you weren't able to do everything that you wanted to do this morning. Please get in touch with me and we'll figure it out. So thank you so much, and I'm going to call the meeting to close. And thank you again for participating.
Thank you.